It's good to see you both. Sure.
Karen, you ready? Jason, you good? I know you have to turn your camera around. Oh, we're owling. Ooh,
I'm gonna have to sit up straight. there.
that's right. There you go. Okay.
Sound that you won't get.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independent City Council meeting. It's August 9th, 2022. It's 6:30 in the evening. Let the record show the council is here and we're happy to be inside and it's not 100 degrees outside. Council members, you have the minutes from the July 26th meeting in your packet, and do they meet with your approval?
Move to approve as written.
Second.
I have a motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. A visitor comment. Mr. Orr, did you want to still come? You've already taken care of things. Thank you very much. Anybody else have a visitor comment? Okay.
Can I read something? I received an email about the pool and they weren't able to be here, so they wanted me to read it.
Is that,
Yeah, as long as I can get a copy, so. I can have-
Yeah, I can just give you this.
Sure.
It's just an email. This is from Erin McIntosh. And she said, I just read the itemizer that the Independence Pool is going to be closed permanently. I am begging you to not let this happen. I am emailing both you, Sarah, as the Park and Rec liaison, and Dawn, because you were mentioned in the article, and it has the article from the Polk IO.
yep.
Independence appears to be thriving. I have lived here my whole life. The growth and development is exciting, but only if your infrastructure and roots hold strong. The pool is a rich community asset and should be reinvested in. My parents met at that pool. I spent every summer as a youth in that pool. My aunts lifeguarded at that pool. You could have a new best friend every day when you were at the pool. What needs to happen to make sure the pool gets the funding it needs to remain open? It can be billed as low income option, community resource for underserved populations, specifically the Hispanic community. There has to be grant money available or some other creative budgeting options. Please let me know how I can help save the pool.
Thank you. And we'll make sure that Karen gets a copy of that. Thank you very much. Okay, moving forward. Under my report, I have a few things to report to you. Today, City Manager West and I attended a Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments legislative gathering hosted by the tribe. And we had people from 81 people, I think it was what turned out, attended, legislators, people running for office, legislative staff, federal folks running for federal office and their staff. And we talked about infrastructure, the importance of listening to local communities, and we talked about the issues related to Buy America. And people were very interested in those kind of things. And so it was really good for the city manager and I to join other mayors and folks from around the region talking to legislators and congressional candidates. A little later on this week, I'm going to be attending the Oregon Mayors Association. I'm a moderator in a couple of different sessions. I'm moderating a whole session on city councils and also one on how on being an elected official and how families interact and the impact upon being an elected official and families. Recently attended, along with City Manager West, Polk County Regional Homeless Prevention Work Group. There was a whole discussion from the about housing costs and projects, and Polk County Community Development Corporation provided a lot of information on what it takes to provide additional housing for folks that need housing and workforce housing in the county. Had the pleasure of attending the National Night Out. I think that was a week ago. And so that was an enjoyable time to see lots of people. And while they didn't have any water balloons going on this year, it was still a great time. And City Manager West, myself, and Council President Morton had a chance to tour the West Valley Hospital and hear about their future plans, their efforts, and what Salem Health is doing. And we talked about working together to try to bring more medical people into this area. They recognize they have needs, we have needs, and so we're working together to try to move that forward. So that's my report. And City Manager West, I think it's your turn. Good evening.
All right, the library roof has now been repaired, replaced. It's complete. We have a new roof. We will have no leaking this year. Well, we shouldn't have any leaking this year. The city of Salem, though, this is interesting. The city of Salem has contacted our city about putting on an Independence Day celebration next year. And I think the verbiage was, we looked at how successful yours was, and we want to put together a cool event like the one that you have in Independence. That's quite a compliment. And to those folks who are on the Independence Day committee, what a great job. What a great job. I also want to thank our mayor because with his contacts, we have continued to explore opportunities and potential partnerships in the creation of a community center pool facility. As you know, from my prior discussions, from my prior reports, from the work session that Gerald and I prepared for y'all at the last meeting, this is a long-term project. And it's a long-term project with a lot of moving parts. The mayor talked about some of these meetings that we go to. We've talked to our state legislators about this project. We've talked to our federal representatives about this project. We are talking with other organizations about this project. We are trying to build a consensus, and we'll keep pushing forward to find funding for this project. As you talk to your constituents, you told us this was important and we're moving forward on it. We can't do it overnight, but we continue to move forward as fast as we can and push this project. Always looking for funding. This is a multi-million-dollar project. This isn't something we can just fund. Yes.
I know this is early days and I'm not asking you to make a commitment here, but the community center idea has been one that's been bandied about a lot. It's obviously a necessity in this community. Can you just keep in the back of your mind? I know we have a senior center in Monmouth, but a lot of our residents use that senior center. It's like when I talked to Barbara Cronin, the director, she told me like 61% of the people who visit there are not from Monmouth. So maybe a component for seniors as well, and all that.
We can, as we get closer, we'll definitely be talking more. You'll have work sessions. You'll be meeting with consultants. One of our federal delegates connected me with a consortium out of Washington that's a nonprofit that's going to help us with sustainability and funding pathways. So we are really working on this, and that is something to discuss, is what does it look like and what does the footprint look like? So, but this is a 3 to 5 year project. Well, hopefully 3, but you know, our police, this is big news. Chief just told me today that they were finally able to find a tow company to get rid of our abandoned RV. That has taken some time because, as you know, tow companies don't tow these, and most cities are having a lot of trouble. Don't quote me on this, but I want to say one of our cities that's close to us budgeted $30,000. I think Mayor, you were in the same meeting with me at the Polk County morning breakfast. I think it was $30,000. That was not enough to remove all of the RVs that they had abandoned in their city. So it is difficult, and finding tow companies is difficult, but our police found one and they're going to have it towed, and they did it relatively quickly given the issues that are surrounding that. The Movies in the Park and concert series continue to draw a great crowd. I was there Thursday with my family, and then Friday with a bunch of my friends came. We have, I don't know if you heard about our Placer software. Our Placer software tells us who's coming, and it pings cell information. Don't ask me any more than that. It is beyond my ability to explain it, but it does ping it so that we know the zip code where those cell phones are coming from. The July 29th concert, we had 2,000 attendees, with West Salem zip codes being the 4th largest draw. Our EDD and our communications manager pushed out notices with a focus on West Salem for the August 5th concert. Those pinged back, with West Salem zip code being the highest draw for that concert. So we're going to continue to work on focused push outs on our media and targeted draws. So then we'll know who's coming and kind of what they're doing in our community, what works, what doesn't work. Eventually, we will have a presentation for you, but this was just the first across the board. And as soon as we get more data and more definitive data, we'll bring it to you and let you know. But it's really exciting for us to be able to determine who's coming and where they're going. And finally, I have to give a huge thanks to our state legislators, Paul Evans and Deb Patterson, because we just received a $2 million check, and that was the Christmas tree bill. And that is for phase 3 of our 9th Street station capacity upgrade and the common force main for our 9th Street and Lagoon pump stations. And that money has to be used for those projects. We can't use it for anything else. I just want to make it clear. I can't move it to parks. I can't move it anywhere else. It's got to go to those projects. That's what it's designated for. But those are important projects. Without our infrastructure, we can't build. Without our infrastructure, we can't keep taking care of our people. So that $2 million is extraordinarily important to us. It's $2 million that we can then, of our own money, we can use for other projects in our wastewater system. I also want to give a huge thanks to our mayor and to Sean Irvine, our economic development director, because they pitched that project. And these meetings the mayor's talking about, they pitched it and they pitched it and they pitched it and they pitched it. And they explained why we need it. And it's these meetings, it's these connections that really worked to get that money in the door. So thanks to our legislators, our mayor, and our economic development director, we have $2 million we just put in the bank for our projects.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move forward into unfinished business. Ms. Johnson, you have this. It's listed. Are you carrying this? Thank you.
Good evening. You have in your packet Council Bill number 2022-08. It's brought to you for the second reading. First reading was held at the prior council meeting on July 26th. If this is adopted and so desired by council, it will be referred to the voters. And resolution number 22-1571 is submitted in order to do that referral. The resolution also contains a ballot title as prepared by the city attorney. So should you decide to move forward, a second motion to approve the council bill is in order.
Okay, councilors, this is the ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and manufacture of psilocybin products. We had an extensive discussion on this last week, and so this is up for a second reading. And should second reading be passed, then we'll move on to adoption of the ordinance and move for that. So unless there's a burning desire for more extensive conversation here, let's get to it. There is so if somebody would make a motion.
I moved to read the proposed ordinance Council Bill 2022-08 for the second time by title only.
Second. I have a second by Takis. Is there further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
Opposed.
And so I have Takis, Roden, and Job. I have opposition Core, Martin Willis, and Morton. Okay, that's a 3-3 tie, forcing the mayor to declare, and I'm going to vote yes. And so the motion carries. So we will now read the ordinance by title only. Ms. Johnson.
An ordinance declaring a ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacture of psilocybin products.
Okay, the third motion carries. We'll now move to the proposed ordinance if someone would make a motion.
I move to adopt the proposed ordinance Council Bill number 2022-08.
I second.
I have a motion second by Roden. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Opposed.
I have a 3-3 vote, and it's the same as it was. So that makes a tie, and the mayor votes yes. The motion passes on a 4-3.
Thank you. So the ordinance has passed and will be assigned ordinance number 1600.
Now we have a resolution to refer this to the voters in the November election, and there is a motion in the packet if someone would care to do that.
I move to adopt resolution 22-1571, referring ordinance number 1600 to the voters at the November 8th, 2022 general election.
Motion, second by Takis. Further discussion. Okay, just to clarify, this will go to the ballot and it'll be voted on by the voters in the November election. Without objection, we're going to go to the vote. All in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
Opposed.
No.
Okay, and it's the same vote as previously, and that is a tie vote, forcing me to make a vote, which I vote yes. The motion passes. Okay,
And the referral process begins tomorrow, and the ballot title will be so published.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Do you know the title of what you're putting on there?
Yeah, it's in your council packet. It's the very last exhibit of the resolution.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to new business, and we have a public hearing on regional housing rehabilitation program. And I'm going to ask for a staff report, and then there's an opportunity for public comment. Manager West.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing. Do we need to open the public hearing first? Karen, okay. This is
yeah. I hope it-
switching over cities. I apologize.
That's
These are
fine. You're
different
doing
ways of
good.
Processing. This is will be a public hearing regarding the Community Development Block Grant from Business Oregon. The focus of these grant funds are for housing rehabilitation, so that folks within Polk County can access these funds to rehabilitate their homes. This is a regional grant and it is within Polk County. These different cities or entities that are involved take the opportunity each year to lead that or lead the CDBG. And this year it's Independence's turn. So we are doing that. At the time of the public hearing, when it opens, I'll be reading the entire script to you, which you've heard before in a prior CDBG.
I think we get to hear it. Okay, I can open the public hearing so you can read your script. Please do.
This is a public notice and notice of public hearing. The City of Independence is eligible to apply for a 2022 Community Development Block Grant from Business Oregon. Community Development Block Grant funds come from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The grants can be used for public facilities and housing improvements, primarily for persons with low and moderate incomes. Approximately $12 million will be awarded to Oregon non-metropolitan cities and counties in 2022. The maximum grant that the city or county can receive is $400,000 for a housing rehabilitation program. The City of Independence is preparing an application for a 2022 Community Development Block Grant from Business Oregon for the PRC Regional Housing Rehabilitation Program that will provide grants to owner-occupied homes in Polk County for the purpose of housing rehabilitation. It is estimated that the proposed project will benefit at least 40 persons, of whom 100% will be low or moderate income. A public hearing, this is the notice, a public hearing will be held by the Independence City Council at 6:30 p.m. on August 9, 2022 at the City Hall at 555 South Main Street, Independence. The purpose of this hearing is for the Independence City Council to obtain citizen views and to respond to questions and comments about community development housing needs, especially the needs of low and moderate income persons, as well as other needs in the community that might be assisted with a Community Development Block Grant project and the proposed project. We did accept written comments and they were accepted through August 5th, 2022 here at 555 South Main Street in Independence, Oregon, 97351. We also accepted both oral and written comments, which will be considered by this council in deciding whether to apply. The location of our hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities, and should any special accommodations needed to attend this meeting, they have the opportunity to contact Karen Johnson, our city reporter, at 503-838-1212. There's also the opportunity to attend via telephone or electronic means, including the Zoom platform, which we have just added so that our community can participate meaningfully in our city council. More information about the Oregon Community Development Block Grants, the proposed project, and records about the City of Independence's past use of Community Development Block Grant funds is available for public review at City Hall at 555 South Main Street, Independence during the regular office hours. Advance notice is requested, and if special accommodations are needed, Karen Johnson, our city reporter, can help with that. And she can be reached at 503-838-1212 and will provide appropriate assistance. Permanent involuntary displacement of persons or businesses is not anticipated as a result from the proposed project. If displacement becomes necessary, alternatives will be examined to minimize the displacement and provide required reasonable benefits to those displaced. Any low and moderate income housing that is demolished or converted to another use will be replaced.
Thank you for reading the required federal language. So the short line is that this is funding for owner occupied homes, and they estimate it'll impact 40 low income folks. That's the short line.
Short line.
Thank you very much. Questions for staff?
What,
Please.
what,
Oh, go ahead. Tom.
I just, what type of projects are we talking about? Like a new roof or maybe foundation repair or something like that, or?
Yes, windows, siding, roofing, foundation, anything to keep the houses livable, inhabitable.
Mhm.
A lot of our low income folks do own homes, but they just can't keep them maintained. And over time, you know, they need a little bit of help.
Great.
Is there any matching?
Counselor, I don't know the answer to that for sure. I think the answer is no.
I don't
but
believe so.
Let me check on that and I can get back with you.
I think how this is the advantage from OCC here.
Oh, good.
She can answer that question.
Diana is the representative for that housing.
There we go. Are you there, Diana?
I am. I don't know how to join. How do I join?
We're trying to get you.
How do I join? I don't understand. Oh, this is so nuts. Hang on. Don't worry. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Do, 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 do.
Diana, can you hear us?
Oh, I think we can hear her.
I
Are you there?
can't speak.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so grateful. I don't know what happened.
Right.
So,
You're speaking to council in a room full of people. Go ahead, Diana.
well, good evening, good people of Independence. So the question is, I believe, what are the funds used for? And I have to say the priority is for issues that support the health and safety of the household. So quite often we have a lot of senior households with limited incomes. Maybe they need ADA ramps or ADA bars in the bathroom. And a lot of times roofs are the most popular item, I have to say. And leakage, you know, that then impacts floors in bathrooms, floors in kitchens. So that is actually, roofs are a big component of this.
May I, Mayor?
Please do.
Diana, another question was, is this a match or a no match grant? And I did not know the answer.
This is that we are not required to provide matching funds. We do have a regional revolving loan fund that was established when we made the first regional application to IFA in 2006 for this PRC group. And we do have funds in there, and those funds are used for people who have debt repayment ability at very low interest, 2% quite often. And so that is used every once in a while in order that the grant funds, which this grant provides, can be used for people who have no debt coverage ability.
Great. Thank you. Counselor Job, did you have a question? Please do.
Yeah, so it's up to $400,000 is the grant, correct? And it's 40 people. Is that 40 houses or is that like how many actual homes?
I'll defer to Diana. Diana, I'll repeat the question, Mayor, if I may.
Please.
I heard the question. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, the thing is that this persons, so if a household has 2 people in it, we're looking at, because of the cost of materials and contracting, we haven't been able to cover as many homes as we used to. So we're looking at between, 13 to 15 homes, unfortunately. We used to be able to do more like 20 or 23, and it's just a challenge.
Thank you.
Great. Counselor Takis.
Yeah, and another question. So if we were to receive this grant, when would the funds be available? When would this program start?
So it would start in 2023, because at this point, if the council approves, then Sean and I complete the intake requesting an application. They send us an application and I complete it online with Sean. And so that is due at the end of September. And then it takes them the rest of the year typically to go through an award. So with the due diligence of noticing the tribes and SHPO and environmental review, typically 2023 is when the project would actually begin. We have funds right now in a Monmouth award that we're still using. We like to keep this program alive so we can continue to help people. So with the current Monmouth award, we're helping people in all throughout the county, just like we would with this award.
Great. Counselor Core.
Hannah, if we get the grant, who on staff is going to administrate this? Is this going to be Sean's program?
Sean will be working with them, but Diana will be handling most of the administration.
Great. Okay, I'm going to open this up. If there's anybody from the public that has comment to make about this, this is the time to jump up. I don't see anybody jumping up and waving their arms. Okay, without objection, I'm going to close the public hearing. Do we have anything else that we have to do related to that? Okay, we have held the public hearing that's required by the federal government. So, yay team. Okay, without objection, we're going to continue moving forward. We're going to have a public hearing on the proposed changes to the garage standards. And I have a script that I'm required to read while Mr. Evander gets to come up here. This evening, we'll have a public hearing on legislative amendment 202205 to consider amendments to the Independence Development Code garage standards. The city council will make a final decision based on the complete record, including the testimony received. Tonight's public hearing, these proceedings are being recorded. This hearing will be held in accordance with the land use procedures required by the city and the state of Oregon. This is a type 4 legislative procedure. At the beginning of the public hearing tonight, staff will identify the applicable substantive criteria from the city's comprehensive plan and or the state of Oregon statewide planning goals. For anybody wishing to speak, you're asked to use the speaker card. When called to speak, you'll be recognized and you must state your name and address for the public record. Before we begin, does any counselor wish to declare an actual potential conflict of interest on this matter? I don't see anybody flagging, so we're going to move forward. I'm going to now open the public hearing for LA 2022-05 Development Code Amendment Revision of Garage Standards. Mr. Evander, I think you have the staff report. Is that correct?
Thank you very much. Yes, it's very nice to be here tonight. It's nice to have a nice full room of folks. So hi there. My name is Fred Evander. I'm the city planner here at the City of Independence. What is before you tonight is a change to the land use.
Fred, can you push the mic just a little bit away from you, blasting us here?
Sorry.
I'd rather hear you than not hear you, but it's loud.
So I will, okay, so what I'm here to present on tonight is, and thank you very much. What I'm here to present on tonight is proposed changes to our existing garage standards. How our code currently works is every house in the City of Independence, especially new houses, is required to have a garage. And so we get requests fairly regularly of people coming in and saying, hey, I would like to convert my garage into a different use. Traditionally, the answer has been no, you can't do that because you're required to have at least one parking spot in the garage. We did get a request just recently by a gentleman who's unfortunately not able to be here tonight. And he requested that the Planning Commission reconsider that requirement. He wanted to expand his kitchen into his garage and only had a single car garage. The resultant space would be too small for him to park a vehicle in. We've told him no originally, but I invited him to attend the planning commission meeting. And the planning commission heard him, considered a range of options. And what is before you tonight is the proposed changes to the code. Now, so that's essentially it. Now, there's a number of sort of issues that the planning commission considered in considering this code amendment. Some of the findings that the criteria, like the mayor mentioned, that should be included are our land use element, our housing element, the comprehensive plan, as well as subchapters 11 of the Independence Development Code. When we look at some of the goals of those sections, like the land use goal, it says to encourage efficient land use, maintain land use designations appropriate to the character of Independence, and to meet future land use needs. That's the general goal. And so what the planning commission did was we looked at, okay, how does that sort of break out? How would this alter potentially the character of some existing neighborhoods? And what the planning commission determined was, yeah, in some ways, removing a garage is gonna alter the character. Some people might park on streets a little bit more. There might be more exterior parking. So they did definitely consider that. That being said, a number of the provisions within the draft are meant to ensure that those negative things don't happen. So, instead of a garage, you could, in the draft, have a carport. The carport would be subject to the same setbacks as the garage, right? Carport's open, garage is enclosed. The cost differential is quite high. Another option is no structured parking at all. If that were the case, then as the draft is written, you would need 2 outside parking spaces per house. Basically, how our standards work at present is you can have a single car garage and you need 19 feet in front of the garage. If you have a single car garage and 19 feet in front of the garage, you have 2 parking spaces. And so the planning commission said essentially, well, if they can show that there's 2 parking spaces on the site, then we could do that. Now, fundamentally, what this comes down to is, we're going to talk about the housing needs analysis in a little bit. We have some issues associated with housing in the city of Independence, and particularly with some of our future land use needs. As home prices have increased, we're looking for a number of people are looking for options to accommodate a mother-in-law or child moving back into the house. There's extended living arrangements that we're sort of dealing with. In the staff report, and Karen, you can pull it up on page 23, Karen, of the overall packet. You will see a slide that the housing needs analysis folks, which we'll talk about later on tonight, prepared for the city of Independence, looking at census data. What I find amazing about this is when we look at Independence on the right, you can see 2.89 people per household. It's higher than the state, it's higher than Polk County. And the amazing thing is that number went up in 2020. Honestly, when I started here, I did a data document up in Thurston County in Washington. I was the data guy, right? And I did data for all of the communities. So I knew what the average household size was for all of Thurston County, for each of the communities. I had never seen a 2.89 in a smaller community. And I thought that number is going to go down, absolutely, in the next census. Part of the reason is you got divorces, you got older people living alone, you got stuff like that that tends to drive housing, the amount of people per unit down. In fact, it went up, and it didn't go up just a little bit, it went up significantly. And so based on that, it seems like providing options for people to have more options with the biggest investment that they have makes sense. I will say too that allowing a garage conversion is one of the cheapest ways that you can add habitable square footage to your house. You have already got 3 of the walls, right? That being said, all of this stuff too will bring what we know is already happening in the city sort of out of the dark. When the gentleman came in and talked to the planning commission, he said, you know, I went around and I talked to my neighbors and I noticed, because he noticed that a whole bunch of them had garage conversions. He said, hey, did you do that legally? Did you get a permit for that? No. Well, it's happening right now. We know that it's happening right now, and bringing these conversions out of the dark is a good idea, partially because people are living in them, right? If people are installing plumbing, if they're installing a bedroom in a garage, we would like to make sure that if that thing catches fire, they have a way to get out of the building, right? So based on all of that stuff, we think that this is a warranted change. We have found that it meets the criteria within the code, and we do believe that the revisions as proposed have considered how to best protect the character of the neighborhoods of Independence.
Counselors, if you have questions for staff,
I have a question.
Counselor Roden.
How did our previous planning fail to meet the needs of the people who lived off Osprey Lane? I mean, if you gave us 19 feet for a garage and now their garages can't even park a small car, and then their driveway, they cannot park on their driveway. And now we've blocked off half of the street so they cannot park there. How do we stop that from happening again? And where are people going to park their cars if they don't have a driveway? I mean, we already go down 7th Street and try to find a place to park there. How do we accomplish that? And how did we fail for the people who live on Osprey?
So it's a good question. So one thing that we have done since I've been here is require 19-foot driveways. It was something that we were requiring in basically every other zone except for that one. That's partially what the thing is. As for how to ensure that people have parking spots, under this code, you would not be allowed to convert a garage if you don't have an alternative sort of approved parking arrangement on your property. So a carport that meets the setbacks, or the 2 parking spots. Okay, let me just take a little sidebar. So Brandy, or all the new subdivisions in Southwest Independence, they're all built with a 2-car garage, right? If somebody wanted to convert that 2-car garage, they still have 2 parking spaces in front of the house, in the driveway. And so if somebody wanted to convert that 2-car garage and maintain those 2 parking spots in front of the house, that would be allowed.
What about the historic neighborhoods? I mean, the reason we have alleys in Independence is so that people could drive down the alleys and park their cars to make the housing more pleasant.
Right. That's absolutely something that like the Historic Preservation Code deals with, some of those design issues. Basically, you can have a garage off an alley. That's allowed.
Your question over here.
I
Please,
have a
Councilor
question.
Roden.
So
Councilor,
this is
Jill.
for, you can convert a garage into living space, and this is also for future, you no longer are required to have a garage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And does this, because I've been hearing a lot about this 7th Street and E Street, I believe it is, that house. So that 5-plex, I think,
If I
something
may,
like that.
Counselor, I apologize. That may be coming for the council, so we can't
Oh,
discuss that
okay.
in any way, shape, or form. If you have
Okay.
another example, I'm sure Fred can answer that. but
No,
we-
that was the one that came to mind.
Thank you. Counselor Takis.
Yeah, I was just wondering why mobile homes are still required to have garages or carports. What's the rationale behind that, where we don't have to have garages in other single resident houses or I think it's in a couple places.
Right, yeah, I see it. That's basically, I don't know. I think that part of that reasoning was just to not touch that portion of the code. But we're touching everything else. So, I mean, yeah, it's a good question.
Are there
Council.
existing association rules that would govern a park, a mobile home park or a manufactured home park?
I definitely think that there are some, yes.
Because those are often detached garages, aren't they, rather
A
than
lot of times
attached?
it's a detached carport. Or the way our definition for attached works is it can be separated by 4 feet and still be considered attached. And so some of those carports are probably within 4 feet of a manufactured home. So is it attached or detached? I don't know. It depends on what you would consider attached or detached.
So my question is just do we need to require that of mobile homes? Maybe there is a good reason. I didn't quite see that.
Right.
And so I would probably suggest we strike that. I think it's D in a couple different zoning areas or something like that. Just a suggestion. I don't know what everybody else thinks about that.
Do you feel this helps developers more than it does people who own the homes? I mean, it seems like this is a way for developers not to have the cost of having a garage, but then can't we make it so the developers still make garages and then on a case by case basis, determine whether or not someone wants to convert their garage instead of just saying, yeah, nobody ever has to make a garage again in Independence, because of course it's cheaper for the developers not to do that, but is that best for the citizens of Independence?
It's a great, you wanna? It's a great question. When we started this, one of the things that I costed out was the actual cost of what it costs to build a garage to add on to a new single family home. It adds cost. I can't remember, I didn't bring the numbers back, but it's something like 10% of the actual physical cost of the building is a garage. And so we're requiring something that not every buyer wants, right? And so is it helping developers? Potentially. Will all developers take that? I would say no. I would point to Councilmember Job and say, how many people want a house without a garage?
0.
And so the vast majority of people are still going to be demanding a garage on their house.
Well, but
Right.
that's what we said.
Let's finish this, please, and then if we need additional questions, we'll go. Please, Mr. Evander.
And so the question then becomes, does this help area residents? And my answer is, yeah, we get requests for garage conversions all the time. Some of the requests that I've gotten, I had a request for somebody wanting to do daycare out of their converted garage. I had to tell them no, right? Like a little in-home daycare sort of thing. I had to tell them no. That was a few years ago. This guy, he wants to expand his kitchen, right, into his garage. I told him no. We get these things literally all of the time. It's one of the biggest requests that we get.
Are there additional questions? Councilor Morton.
Wouldn't the building of a garage or the not building of a garage be economically driven by what the market is demanding?
That's what I would say. Yes, absolutely.
And if one observation I'd like to make, I did a poll around my neighborhood, which is a 3-block cul-de-sac. I am one of 2 homes that actually uses their garage to park cars into. And the other one is because it's a car that's being stored long-term. And we built a garage on the front of our house in front of another garage, and it was more expensive than remodeling all our bathrooms and everything else. So I think I think it's clear that it's going to be market driven.
Additional questions? Councilor Coor, please.
I think the bottom line is, Fred, it's happening. It's possibly not safe, dangerous situations. I did the same thing as Council Morton. I surveyed my small development. I'm the only one who uses my garage to park too. Everybody uses it for storage. They have a college kid come back home, like you mentioned, brings all their stuff. They gotta have a place to put it. I kind of see this from both sides. I worry about, people not parking on their driveway pads and instead parking on the street. We're right back to where we started. But I guess the bottom line is it's happening and people could get hurt.
So here's what I'm going to do. I think we've gone through the questions
I
at
have
this
one more
point.
question.
You have a question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead for the question.
Wouldn't you think that this is similar to what I said at the last city council meeting, where if we make it a requirement for people to have green space so that we don't have as much density on a piece of property, that the developers will have to develop it that way? Don't you think if we make it so the developers have to have a garage, they're going to develop it that way? And that's better for the people who buy the house instead of making it an option.
So one thing that I'll just say, like, me and Chief, when he was city manager, we had this conversation, right? We had, like, literally, we played out all of these alternatives. We had this conversation. And he said, well, it could be an experiment. We can see how it works. Well, you know what ends up happening is I ended up looking at Monmouth's code. I ended up calling over to Monmouth. Guess what? They don't require garages, right? And so we can see what's happening over there. People are still building garages. If the demand for a garage is there, right? Not everybody is going to want a house with no garage, right?
So what I'd like to do here, unless there's strong objection, I know that this is a public hearing, and so does anybody? Thank you, Fred. I'll let you. Does anybody here want to speak to this at this point? Yeah, take a moment here, and so we have your name and contact information. Please. Nice to see everybody. You can talk amongst yourselves, it's okay. So for those of you that are planning commission members, that when we have the joint work session, we'll be doing that downstairs. So, you can hang out with us, or we'll come down as soon as we get our business done. So if you're on the planning commission, you want to go downstairs into the event center, you're welcome to do that at this point. It's open, right? I think so. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Amanda, good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Thank you. Go ahead. And we're talking about garages.
Yeah, so
Okay.
do I need to state my name and?
I have it here.
Okay, sorry, the planning commission, they make you state your name.
Do
and
I have to
address.
have her do it orally, or since we already have it written?
I'll just state her name and city that she resides in. Okay.
Amanda Sloan, she lives in Independence. Thank you. Go ahead.
So some of the council members already brought up issues that I had. Originally I'd come here, I think there was supposed to be some comments during the public comment section, but there was confusion about time, but I think this relates to what we're talking about. I really hope that this council and the planning commission takes in consideration some of the concerns that were brought up by Councilor Roden, especially about parking. So I live on 7th Street. And if you've been down 7th Street, half the street you can't park on. On one side, you can't park on it. As a result, my neighbors park in front of my house. They don't park on their driveway. Sometimes they do. The gentleman has a trailer for business. So he'll put his trailer in his driveway. And they park in front of our house. And honestly, at this point, it's fine, but it's going to become a point of conflict with my neighbors when my kids can drive, which is only a couple years away. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and in a couple years, God forbid, she's going to be driving a car. And so that presents a huge risk. And so we continue to allow this to happen. I was at the planning commission meeting last week, and they are adding a giant like townhouse complex at the end of a street. I know.
Okay, I'm going to hold you here for a second, because we're only talking about the garages part here.
It's about parking. I
Yeah.
promise to relate it back to what I'm saying.
Yeah, because
If those houses didn't have parking garages, because right now they currently have to have parking garages, so they all have garages and they all have these driveways. If those weren't there, All of those people would be parking down 7th Street. And that's what I want you to consider. There's people that bringing up like market-driven things. The fact is that most people want to have a 2-car garage for resale value. That's just a simple fact. When you look at houses that have garages versus houses that don't, the ones that have garages have more value. But if you allow this to happen, what you are going to have is you're going to have developers misusing the land and increasing the density and increasing the number of houses on the land so that they can shove as much. And I know this because I saw this happen in my own hometown. I moved here from a place in Nevada where this is what happened. They got rid of some of these building standards and they made the number of spaces available or the number of parking spaces available smaller and smaller and smaller to the point where the houses were literally built on top of each other. It decreases the quality of life for the residents. It causes conflict with residents when everyone's children grow up and everyone's parking cars or you have family members over to visit and there's nowhere to park on the street. Right? This is why you have those A&E shows that are like Neighbors Go to War. They go over to war over silly things like parking spaces, but it's because cities don't plan for this and they allow for developers to overuse the land and eliminate the parking spaces available for the residents that live here. I hope that the city council takes this in consideration, and I get the safety concerns, and I think simple code enforcement, right? If it's that much of a prevalent problem, it seems like code enforcement needs to be doing their job and enforcing code and making sure that people aren't building illegal structures, opposed to taking parking spaces away from the residents that bought these houses, hoping to be able to use the houses and use the street in a safe way. 7th Street already is not a safe place necessarily to pull out on. There's a lot of traffic, and the parking, if this were to happen, like the congestion would only make it worse. Children will be at risk, neighbors will be at risk. It makes it harder to pull out. It just decreases the quality of life and decreases the quality of the properties on those high density areas, especially closer to downtown. So I would urge the city council to reject this.
Thank you very much. Are other people here to want to talk about garages? This is, we have to be, because the council can only consider the things that are in the report, which are the garages, related to the garages. Related to garages. I think I said that 3 times, and just excuse me. I'll get you. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Leslie Ellis, and I just wanted to say this. I think history repeats itself. I believe a few years back, maybe, but this also came up. And Marilyn, you might remember. It was my understanding how it ended was that on new development houses, garages were required. Does that ring a bell?
It does, but we were addressing snout houses at the time.
Okay, so I really think that's a good idea, is that new development have garages, excuse me. And then I totally understand what's going on with people needing their garage, especially for mother-in-law garage type thing, college kids, people who need the extra space. But it is true, most people do use their garages for storing and their animals and their pets and whatnot. So I don't know, that might be a nice compromise, just new development. Because it is true. It does bring the value of your home up, and people do want to have a garage. Most people who are purchasing new homes, if you look at all the new homes that are in, they're not having a hard time selling them with garages. Short, sweet, to the point.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate that. Any other public comment related to garages? Okay, Mr. Vander, I think you have something you wanted to add here that would be relevant, please.
Yeah, one of our planning commission commissioners just wanted to remind everybody that this would still require 2 parking spaces on a project site, right? If you have a space in a garage and a 19-foot driveway, that's 2 parking spaces. If you have a space in a carport and a 19-foot driveway, that's still 2 parking spaces. If you have no structured parking, then you need 2 parking spaces, and that's specifically on a project site. That's not on the street. That's not considering street parking, that doesn't count. It's specifically 2 spaces per project site.
So what I'm going to do here, unless there's objection, I'm going to close the public hearing. And then if there is if there are questions for staff, and then we'll have a discussion. Does that sound all right with everybody? Is there anybody else did you want to speak about garages?
No, not about garages. I don't know if we're gonna have an opportunity to talk about the development on the corner of 7th and E, because
I understand.
several people are here that wanted to, are we gonna have that opportunity?
I'm going to let staff answer that question because there's a legal component to this.
So, okay, you'll remember at the public hearing, that there's, well, potentially, so, I mean, so, yeah,
So
there's 2.
that one, I'm sorry, Fred, that one is going to a potential appeal. So because it might be appealed, it might come before the city council. Because of that, we don't want to bring any new information in. We will get notices out if it comes to the council, and then
We'll ask the city council.
See, and that's what I was gonna try and get to, is because what I mean, and this is a real issue, right? We're talking about housing needs later on, and as the city has more housing, how to accommodate that in regards to existing neighborhoods, like you're talking about neighborhood preservation. That's tonight, that will be later on tonight.
well, we're not talking
We're
about
not
that.
talking about that specific development, but we're talking,
The city council may be hearing it, and so the city council can't take any new information on it. But when the city council hears it, absolutely.
What if there's a lot of appeal? Is it very expensive? People just want to ask questions and present things to say, can we slow this down?
Well,
so there's 2 types of, this is confusing, right? But there's essentially 2 types of ways that you folks act, the planning commission acts. One is that in a quasi judicial manner where you're sitting as a judge and evaluating the merits of a proposal, right? Based on the criteria that are before you, right? That's what the planning commission did for that public hearing. That's potentially what the council would do if they heard an appeal. There's the other action, which is a legislative code change to say, this is how the code, these are the standards by which future development will be evaluated on, right? And so things like green space, like Councilmember Roden's bringing up, or anything like that, how to what you're mentioning, the preserve a neighborhood, as we're talking about infill and new houses in existing neighborhoods, considering those things is very important. And so that's specifically why I mentioned the housing needs analysis meeting to you tonight, because
Are we gonna be able to make public comment after? Because the agenda is for this month.
Fred, I have a question, maybe this.
Oh, okay, let me go one thing at a time. I'm gonna finish Fred, then I'm gonna want Kenna to help me sort this out. I'm not cutting off here because I want to make it really clear. So Kenna?
if it is appealed, so let's go 2 routes. If the matter is appealed, it will come to the city council. There will be discussion then. And you can come in and you can talk to them, you can give them your, all of the issues, your likes, your dislikes, you will have that opportunity.
And that's the one that costs $500 plus.
That's the appeal process. Now, if there is no appeal, then the decision of the planning commission stands. Right? So it's either appealed or it's not, right? So at this point.
Wait,
The city council and the planning commission, we're gonna be here tonight, and we were going to be able to.
Not
talk
on-
about it in front of everybody.
Not on that topic,
not on the specific project.
right? Now, on the housing needs analysis, absolutely, and on the garage, absolutely. But because it's a legal process, we have to follow the rules. Because now remember, if we don't follow the rules, then it could cause problems for the entire process. So if someone wanted to appeal, it could cause problems for that. We want to keep this as legal and clean as we can. Well, you will at the,
There's several of us here that we wanted to talk about this.
And you-
Without it becoming a big legal issue.
it's just the type of process it is. It's a planning and use process.
Well, that's like saying
So-
there's no process.
So hold on. So we are required, I see your hand. We are required to follow a certain process on how things have to happen. We don't have choices on parts of this. We have to follow we have to follow a particular legal process because there are numbers of factors. Whether we want to do anything different or not, we have to follow a particular process that are the legal people put out, and there's statewide rules related to this. We're not trying to not hear you, but we have to do it at the right time. Otherwise, it causes a battery of process issues that really block things up. And so I don't really want to go back and forth there. So what we're talking about tonight, we're doing garages. Okay, that's what we're doing right now. And then when the 7th Street, E Street issue comes up, then we'll have an opportunity to have a whole conversation where people can provide all sorts of information, because this body then on an appeal sits as a judicial body to weigh in and hear all the issues, all the details, and make a finding. And that did it.
So that, no, so that can also happen once the decision is final, right? But we can't do that outside of a process whereby
The legally mandated process.
a legally mandated process whereby a final decision. No, if the decision closes without an appeal, then you folks could talk to the city council about this as much as you want, and I mean, but it wouldn't be changed, right? But I mean, because the decision would be final, right? The thing that we gotta remember is everybody has due process, right? So we're trying to ensure that the applicant has due process.
Also,
Wait.
wait a minute, we're just, thank you. So I understand. So when the appeal comes in, then it'll get scheduled, there'll be a hearing. And then all the information is allowed to come in, and our legal people will be here because there is it's a state mandated process. It's not one we came up with. Okay, Counselor Roden, you have a question.
I
and
just
then
need clarification because I'm not understanding. If there has been no appeal written, why can't we discuss it? Because now we are talking about things that may happen in the future, but have not happened. So why would there be legal precedence that says we can't discuss something that's never happened?
Because it has been indicated that there will be an appeal, Counselor. We're trying to protect you, and we're trying to protect our community. So the indication is that there will be an appeal.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. Here's what I'm going to suggest. I'd like staff to meet with the people that need to talk about how this might move forward. There's a couple different things, and because this is not what we're trying to do tonight, okay? And
We have the opportunity to talk to the city council about it.
I think she's trying to propose like a new
Yeah,
order for like the neighborhood restoration. Could she present that at the housing council meeting? So
well,
tonight.
tonight's meeting for the housing needs analysis is an information, the council and planning commission, we're just hearing information. This isn't, all it is we're listening, nothing else. We're just listening and asking from the staff presentation. And as I understand, it's not a public comment type thing, because we're just hearing the information for the very first time. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I mean, I did invite Kathy specifically because like, these are competing things that we need to consider as part of this housing
Right.
analysis. We all recognize it, and so that's.
And so this is the first time we're going to be hearing this. And so there's going to be lots of other opportunity for people to make comment. It's not done. All it is an information presentation, right?
That's,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. I was trying to get, so,
No, the work session is, so a work session, it's, well, it's because it's a legal process and we just have to follow the rules. I know, and Fred and I will chat with you. We'll chat with you about the process. It depends on where it is in the process. That's what I can tell you.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Garages.
okay, we're going back to garages. All right, we're on garages. Now, are there additional questions? We're into discussion mode here. And so I'm back to garages. Mr. Vander, I have one question for you. On the, we do have requirements on lot size, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so a developer can't just say, I'm going to make this cheaper by going and squishing down the lot size without approval, is that correct?
That's
Yes,
correct.
okay, so I just wanted to deal with it. Yes, ma'am.
One question about garages, and I think Fred maybe. So do we currently have any code that says you have to be solar ready in your garage? Or is there anything coming about that, or anything about electric car chargers in garages coming or anything like that?
I have no idea.
You guys don't have anything like that?
Okay, discussions of garages.
May I ask a question about parking with relation to garages?
And you're asking staff to
I'm
clarify?
asking staff to clarify this, and this may take Chief Mason to answer it too. One of the commenters mentioned code enforcement, and I agree with that. If there are 2 parking spaces as mandated by this new process, and the 2 parking spaces are open and not being used, and there is parking instead on the street, would code enforcement have the right or the ability to go to those parkers who are in the street and have an unused 2 spaces to park in, and ask that they park them in the spaces that are designated and not on the street?
Okay, all right. Discussions, we're on the discussion portion of garages.
I'm hearing a whole lot about new construction and whether or not we mandate those garages. And I think the issue that we're not hearing about is what started this whole process, and that is garage conversions. We have people in our community that are already converting their garages. We had a gentleman come before the planning commission requesting permission to extend his kitchen into a section of his garage. So we keep seemingly glossing over that. If you want to require garages on new houses, fine. And then those people can turn around and convert those garages. So long as they have 2 parking spaces in front of their home. I've already had a conversation with Fred regarding my home because my 2 spaces are a single car garage and a 19-foot driveway. If I convert my garage, I then have to demo my existing driveway and put a 2-car driveway on another portion of my lot. Because you can't have 2 driveways apparently. So I can't just add an additional one. There are also limitations on how much of the lot can be paved. So let's not forget the folks out there who have growing families or who are moving their parents in with them, or kids are coming home, now they're raising their grandbabies. They need more space. Buying a new home simply may not be an option for everybody. may not be an option for everybody, period.
So I'd like to make sure that we are defining what this issue is again, and so I want to make sure I've got it correct. So, because we've gone all over the place. So what we're doing is that is what's approved by the planning commission is that would allow conversion of garages into other stuff as long as there continue to be 2 parking spaces, however they are configured on the property. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that's what you have a discussion.
I do have a discussion.
Okay,
I think this is going to be exploited by developers at every opportunity. I do not believe that the city will ever stand up to making sure that people have adequate parking. I think they've already shown that with the disastrous Osprey Lane and how people can park there. So I am going to vote no on this. I think there should be a way that some people can convert their garages if they need to, but I think a blanket statement saying that garages don't have to be made at all only serves the benefit of the developer and not people of our community.
Okay. Other comments? Please do.
I just like to say, I don't see that at all. I think we've heard pretty clearly that that's not what the market wants. They want garages. And we also know that most people don't use their garages for cars. They use it for storage. We're still requiring the same amount of parking spaces. I don't think this affects parking at all.
Okay, if there is no other discussion, we do have a recommendation from the Planning Commission that was unanimously passed, and there it is on page 22. What do people want to do? Under recommendation. Go ahead.
I will start this out. I move to approve LA/2022-05 as recommended by the Planning Commission and adopting the findings and recommendations as contained within the staff report. Do I need to read out LA?
Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's implied
Okay.
as it's written, LA 202205. Okay,
Second,
I have a motion and a second, because this is about garage conversions. Please do.
I would like to offer the amendment that we strike the requirement for mobile homes.
I didn't hear.
He wanted to strike the references to mobile homes, like that to come back. Does anybody object to doing that at that point?
I do.
Okay, so that means that we'll have to vote on that.
Vote on the amendment.
On the amendment first, okay. So, and without objection, does anybody want to have a detailed discussion on that? Please do.
No, but I have a quick question and I'm not sure who can answer it. So if we strike the mobile home rule, could essentially park HOAs supersede city code?
Yeah.
Okay.
In relation to that, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't stepping on the rules of park owners
And Tom, just a
Disallowing
question
something.
of clarification. You're thinking that they should come back and take a look at mobile homes? And is that what you're suggesting, or we just don't want to deal with that?
Well, I guess I would ask for advice. Personally, I don't see what the difference is between a
Okay.
single family home or a mobile home. And I would just go ahead and strike it, but I'm open to suggesting so.
Okay, so I had a motion to strike the mobile home, and did I have a second for that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I didn't second it.
Did
but I don't-
anybody second the
I will.
desire?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
wanted to do that, to strike the mobile home portions, okay?
Yeah, the requirement for manufactured homes or mobile
Yeah.
homes.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second on the amendment to strike.
Is that manufactured homes on their own lots or manufactured homes in a park?
I think we're talking
All
about
the
a park, but whether or not it says
Yeah,
a
I
park.
think it could be all the above.
Would that be all of the above?
Which is why
Requirement in manufactured homes.
well, and that's why I asked, would our rules supersede the park?
Council, City Manager West, please.
On the red,
Only parks.
Right, it
Yeah.
does. specify
it does
that.
specify that.
Okay, that was in manufactured home park. Does that help everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment to strike mobile homes that are in the manufactured home parks, okay? Without objection, okay. All in favor of the amendment
Can
signify
we
by.
have a discussion?
I'm sorry, I thought we had one. Go ahead, please do.
So the reason why I think this is again necessary for people who live in manufactured homes is because many of them would like to have a carport to park their car in. And if you eliminate that rule for developers not to have it, then they're not gonna have a place to park their car. So again, it's a cost savings for the developer. It's not a benefit to the person who lives in the manufactured park.
You, additional comments?
There's really not parking in the manufactured home parks other than their carport and their driveway. So I don't know why we would take that out.
I
Additional
think it was
comments?
just to treat all housing equally. If
Yeah,
in
well,
most,
I mean, if you don't have a requirement for a carport, at least a carport in a manufactured home park, they already don't have a lot of parking there. And most of the time, we've got 2 cars. For
But
each manufactured
isn't
home.
that the, since it's a private park, they put whatever rules they put the rules together
Yeah,
the
she
way they
said they
want
can
to.
supersede the,
They can supersede them anyway, so it doesn't.
the park could supersede our rule.
correct.
The park
Correct.
could still
I still
require.
think that
That's why
they
some
should
don't
have.
put it in, because they can supersede it anyway. So what's the point of putting it in? I guess that's what.
Right,
your
that's what you're
argument is,
saying.
right?
I still think they should.
The
have a
point of
carport
putting
at
it in
least.
is so they put
But they don't,
10 units in in
Yeah,
an
they're gonna-
area
they're gonna
instead
put
of
the units
20
closer
because
together.
But they don't have
they
to.
don't, well, they
they
won't.
get,
Because they're
no,
gonna try to get as many people in an area as they
well,
can.
that's, and
But
that's,
they still have to have the driveway, so the
Okay,
square footage doesn't change of the
Right.
lot.
Counselor Takis.
So wouldn't it, we still require the 2 parking spaces, or is that not required
You
in?
know, it looks to me like that's a separate section.
Mhm.
And so we would consider the 2 in every place, but the manufactured home park would be specifically the carport area. So, I mean, at this.
We'd eliminate all parking.
Is there any harm with just leaving it in and we can revisit it at a later time?
Honestly, that's why I left it in.
Yeah.
originally.
I would be, well, this is what I wanted to hear is why it wasn't in there. I'd be willing to withdraw the amendment. If somebody wants to withdraw their.
Any objection to withdrawing the amendment?
Mm-mm.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. We sorted through that, little rough there, but we figured it out. Okay, we're now on to the main issue of approving the recommendations of Planning Commission, adopting the findings and recommendations contained in the staff report that talk about garage conversions, as long as there's still 2, I'm defining this to make sure that there's still 2 parking places. Without any other discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
I oppose.
One opposed here and,
Opposed.
okay, Job and Roden are opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, we're moving to I got to get my agenda here. Go ahead. We have we have the now Council Bill 20, the enacting legislation. Is that correct? Page 31. Right on page 31, and this is the putting it in the code. Am I in the correct place, City Manager West?
You are.
Thank you. Okay, we just passed this. This is a ordinance, and so we have the 3-step jump move. So if somebody would like to do this,
Yes, I move to read the proposed ordinance Council Bill 2022-09 in full as the text is contained in the council packet for the first time.
you have a motion?
Second.
I have a second by Takis. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying, okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
Opposed.
Okay, I have Job and Roden in opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. This will go into our next council meeting since it was not a unanimous effort.
And all we should, and ordinance amending independence development subchapter 20 low density residential RS zone, subchapter 21 medium density residential RM zone, subchapter 22 high density residential RH zone, subchapter 23 mixed density residential MX zone, and declaring an effective date.
Okay, City Manager West, I think you have established the Polk County Coordinating Homeless Response System. I think you have this one.
Yes, Mayor. All right. House Bill 4123 provided a grant to local governments to create and establish a coordinated homeless response system, office and advisory board. That grant was given to Polk County and the entities within Polk County that signed on, which happens to be all of the cities and a couple of organizations. The idea behind this program is to create one space, one location, one person who can help to those folks who are facing homelessness to keep them in their homes. This is a preventative measure. We are focusing on the prevention of homelessness. In order to continue with that, there are some requirements by the state, one of which is that we enter into an MOU that is outlining the roles of the parties and exactly what we're going to do. There's some other requirements that are in there. They don't really affect this council, but you can read them in the staff report. The only thing that this MOU does is it says that the City of Independence is willing to move forward with this program. We are going to participate. We may have a person on the advisory board, and it outlines what that advisory board does. We are not putting in any money into this. This is grant funded. They received $1 million. If we do move forward, we will continue with the meetings, and the only cost to the city, of course, is staff time. And I would really quickly to try and get us moving forward. Mayor, did I miss something?
I was going to say this is just for staffing to coordinate the resources between the county, the nonprofits, and all the resources that are in rural Polk County, funding the staffing to bring all those resources together in a prevention. I've attended these meetings in a preventative nature to try to keep people from becoming homeless, and it's a prevention area. It's only for staffing to do the coordinating part. Is that correct?
That's absolutely.
Thank you. Councilor Jobe, you have a question?
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. I know there were a lot of people concerned that we were going to have some sort of homeless shelter
No.
here in Independence, and that's not the plan and is never going to be the plan, or is there something that's
That is-
going to come from this as well?
That is not the plan. The plan for this and what we've been talking about at the last 5 or 6 meetings is all about creating one location where all of the services can be corralled and they can then help folks. That one office is an office person, and that's what's funded. And then it's a template that can be picked up by other locations if it does work.
So it's like the state services, but at the Independence level or at the Polk County level?
Polk County level. Polk
Okay, and this
County.
is the annex, the old school over on 16th and
The
Hoffman?
Academy Building.
Is that what it is?
No,
Oh,
that's
The
the
Ash
temp,
Creek
the Ash Creek Annex by Ash Creek School is the temporary location. The county is planning to build a major facility at the S curves to provide a number of the offices for the veterans office will be there. I think WIC will be, all those
So-
administrative offices.
Okay, so at the S curves, Monmouth Independence S curves, we're going to have a facility for people like a state assistance, but at the county level, like a Polk County assistance facility at the S curves
Some of them already do in Dallas. They're building it.
in Dallas, right? But you're gonna put one in Independence.
We have one in Independence now. This is in addition to that. The people who are here in Independence work for Brett DeVoe. This is a different thing she's talking about. She's talking about an individual who will lead Polk County on homelessness prevention. It's a little bit different.
But they're gonna put a building on the S curves for this
Yes.
one
So
person.
Brett DeVoe is eventually
For the
moving to the S curves.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking. We're
Yes.
going to have a big facility on the S curves for all of the assistants, like WIC and,
Yes.
Administrative.
And that is separate from this, but this person may be in that. But that is a completely separate building, separate plan, has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Other than this person may be in there.
so all we're talking about is one person today.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
one
it's only one
person, the
person.
advisory board, you know, who's on the advisory board, the roles of the people in the advisory board.
Councilor Core, please.
Yeah, I just want to bring up 2 issues. The advisory board is one thing. There will be an advisory board that will we'll either have a staff or an elected representation to that board, correct? Okay. The other issue is, this is one pot of money to address homelessness. There are various pots of money that are addressing homelessness right now. The Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance is working to get HUD grants for youth homelessness. There could very possibly be a youth homeless shelter in our community. We don't know that yet. We don't know where this money is going to wind up. We don't know what we're going to wind up doing with it. And we have to look to the experts to kind of give us some advice and guidance on how to do that. But there are lots of different funding streams at work.
But this is the administrative,
Yeah.
what we're talking about is the MOU for administrative, to kind of, I want to call it a navigator, to oversee the navigating functions. We're not putting any camps in or anything like that. I want to make that really clear. Please do.
Administration.
Okay, so I've read this thing intensively and I couldn't disagree more with how it's been represented right now. I feel like this gives an open, it leaves it so open to interpretation of how it's going to be run, that we are giving our power to one person in our community to essentially say what should happen in our community. And I'd like to go over this. I'd like to note several things, and please give me the opportunity to finish. The city of Portland spends about $800 million per year on homelessness. And can you ask yourself, has any of that money improved Portland? Because that's what's going to happen here in Independence. If you think that the homeless initiative will, do you think any homeless initiative that we're supposed to, this is what we're supposed to be doing, is replicating a national homelessness initiative, has it actually decreased the homeless population? No. So we're inviting this to Independence. Do we want this in Independence? This MOU allows one person from the city of Independence to dictate how we're going to run and be organized in this program. I do not think that's wise. I do not think we should be involved with this. This MOU will make it Polk County Advisory Board the grant recipient and the administrator of the program. That totally eliminates anything council could say to get us out of this program or disagree with anything that's being written in this program. If you look at section 4, paragraph 2, it says they're going to establish specific rules, but it doesn't tell us what those rules are. And it doesn't tell us any of those guidelines that this program is going to set. If you look at section 6A, it says where, and it talks about, let me get it exactly. 6A establishes specific rules for participating entry to support advisory board and response office rules. Where are they going to build this homeless camp? Because they're going to decide where to do it. They're going to.
There is no homeless camp.
At this, we don't know that yet. We don't know that. Part 6C, it says review and approve the plan and coordinate system annual budgets. Who's going to pay for the annual budget once this $1 million spent? Where are we going to get that money? Because it doesn't say anywhere in here where we're going to do this. So we're just supposed to sign on and hope that somewhere down this road, we're going to find the money. And we don't know. Are we going to do what other cities have done, where they take a percentage of the general fund to keep covering the homeless population? Because that's what they're proposing in Seattle. They take 12% of the general fund every single year to continue what these boards start in the beginning. That's supposed to be, it's not going to cost us a
Counselor,
thing.
if I may, you have a question for me, because that's where we are right
Nope,
now.
I just want to keep talking, please.
Let's go with,
Can I please finish what I
no,
want to say?
we're gonna, let's let her answer the question. That there was a question in there. And then when we,
See, this is the problem, is I come here to city council and I want to discuss something, and then I'm shut it up every single time I want to discuss something. Here's the other issue too, is we have seven homeless people in our town. And if we continue to do this, it's going to come crazy. And right now we have no say in what our homeless do. On July 2nd, there was homeless people having sex near the park. We couldn't do
Counselor.
anything about it.
Counselor,
We have,
you have not had LOC training yet, and I
we
understand
don't
that.
need LOC
We
training
are
to see
at a
what's going
point
on
where
for
we are doing
independence.
questions. You get to discuss this once there's a motion. I swear you get to discuss this once there's a motion. If you have a question for me, I am so happy to answer
Okay,
it.
here's the question.
Okay.
Please.
I took a picture of a man who pulled out his penis and peed on a
Relating
wall.
to the memorandum of understanding.
And there was
Counselor.
nothing that the city could do to stop him from doing
Counselor,
that. How do we
again.
stop this from
all
happening?
right, take a breath,
You see my problem?
take a breath.
Let me answer what I think you might be asking, because I didn't hear a question in there. You asked about, I'm asking the participating
let's-
entities and the purpose and the establishment of the rules. The participating, and I went through this quickly, and council, I apologize for going through this quickly. I will take the time to go through it point by point. Purpose of this agreement is to establish a coordinated response system that consists of a coordinated homeless response office, also called a response office, with a centralized point of contact. That centralized point of contact in our discussions is one person. That one person is under the control, being paid by Polk County, not by the city.
other parties against liability for damage to life or property arising from the indemnifying party's own activities under this agreement, very standard. Compliance with House Bill 4123 and grant agreements. Basically, it's saying all actions of the advisory board and the participating entities in carrying out this agreement will be in compliance with the provisions of House Bill 4123 and any administrative rules, orders, or regulations adopted thereunder. We don't have control of that. House Bill 4123 is a state House bill. If they create administrative rules, we will follow them. If they have orders, we will follow them. If they have regulations, we will follow them because it's the state. And with the grant agreement, as well as all other applicable provisions of law. In other words, if there is another law that affects this, we'll follow it. So, in short, it's creating an advisory board. We're agreeing to the advisory board. We're not putting any money in. We're not building a homeless shelter. We're focusing on prevention to get homeless people off the streets and into houses and keep them in their houses. That's prevention.
So Counselor Coeur, I think you were waving your hand there for a moment and I wanted to
City
give,
manager addressed my issue.
thank you, appreciate that. Others?
So my
Please.
question is,
Question, please.
I believe Counselor Coeur is our representative on the Mid-Willamette
It's
Valley.
core, not core.
Sorry. I believe she is a representative on that. She votes for us, and I don't remember once in the past 18 months of me being on city council where she came and asked us what our opinion was on a situation.
I don't
So-
have to ask your opinion.
Exactly,
And
and I'm pretty
what
sure
is-
that's gonna happen on this.
Can I
one.
finish what I'm saying,
And then
please,
my
Councilor
the
Roden?
second thing
Council-
is, where in this
I
program does it
have
have
never-
anything
Wait a minute.
about mental health issues and drug substance abuse issues? How are we gonna solve those with this? Because everybody I've talked, even the meetings I've sat in with, you know, how are we gonna curb homelessness? Our counselors are overburdened, our medical people are overburdened. Where in this plan does it cover mental health and drug abuse?
That's next steps. First step, create the MOU so we can do the work. We have to create the MOU to create the advisory board to take the next step. Step one, create the organization. Step two, put in action those things that we've been talking about for the last 6 months. And that's why they brought in all those experts. And I think you sat in some of those meetings. So, you know, again, chicken and egg, you've got to create the organization to take the action. This is the organization that will then take the action based upon the 6 meetings and the advisory board.
May I clarify? If question is that if I understand, so I was just reading, you know, a response office and central point of contact, because I think from those meetings that we've attended, there are 50-some people there from around the county. And I think it was pretty clear that there is lots of resources out there, but they're all operating in their own little circles. And that this is to take those resources, both from the counties and the nonprofits because no one person at this point knows all the resources that are out there, to bring those together, to utilize the existing resources to address the homeless issues and prevention, because that's one of the things that I know that Brent and the county commissioners have talked a lot about is prevention. And it looks like there's a lot of resources out there that if one side knows what the other side's doing, they can get together and put resources. Would that be a fair characterization of those meetings that we've had?
That is 100% correct, Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Corey, did you have anything you wanted to add at this
I
point?
just want to make 2 clarifying points, Mayor. Number 1, I don't think Councilor Roden understands the mission of the Homeless Alliance. I do not make decisions about how this city will spend money. I do not make decisions about how we will deal with our homeless situation. We are building a framework to bring people into the coordinated entry process. The Homeless Alliance works primarily with the feds to establish policy, to establish mechanisms to support the overall process. Every decision I have made, I have conferred with City Manager Pessimer, City Manager West on those decisions. If a decision comes up that it requires the council to be involved, you will hear about it. That is not what the Homeless Alliance is about. I am there to be the eyes and ears of independence and to come back with information. I've made a presentation, the Homeless Alliance has made a presentation, Brent DeMoe has made a presentation about what we're doing. You do not understand what the role is. It's different from what City Manager West is discussing tonight. And I would suggest that you do some reading and you educate yourself on the difference and differentiation between these processes.
You'd be
Okay,
surprised how
so-
many times she's called me.
So here we go. We have a memorandum of understanding in front of them. Do people want to take action on this?
I want to make a motion to approve it.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the document as presented. I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on this matter? I hear no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed.
Opposed.
I have Roden and Job. Sorry, I'm just. And I'm,
It's been a long day.
I want to say first names. I'm trying to be formal all the time. It's a motion carries. Thank you very much. Now, moving forward, we have a revision of the ARPA grant funds for use by the YMCA. City Manager West, you have this one.
Thank you, Mayor. We're requesting the council authorize revision of the use of the ARPA grant funds, which were allocated to the Independence and Monmouth Youth Recreation Grant and awarded to the YMCA. We're requesting this because unfortunately the pool has come to a point where it cannot be used. As I indicated in my city manager report, my prior reports, my prior emails, and the work session, we are looking into opportunities to create a community center and a pool on that footprint. But where we are now is that we had authorized funds to YMCA for use at that pool. YMCA has asked if we could redirect those funds. It would still be redirected to children and to their programs. It just will not be specifically for the lifeguards and the scholarships for swimming. You'll see on page 51 of the packet what they're asking for those funds to be redirected to. And it's very, very clear. You'll see in red the lifeguard course, they did use that. So those funds are expended. The rest of the funds are being held and they're just asking to redirect.
Question for staff at this moment, please do.
I have questions and I hate to come off as a negative person today, but I've asked this question before. I haven't got an answer to it. CYS, Central Youth Sports, wasn't given their full grant because we didn't have enough money after we distributed everything to give them their full grant. Why haven't we given them the full grant they've asked for and then give the rest of it to the Y for this? Because they're obviously submitting this after the deadline. Why can't we fulfill what we should have fulfilled to CYS and then give the rest to CYS, or wait for the second funding of ARPA funds that's supposed to happen for youth?
The council gets to decide what to do with this. The YMCA is asking, you've already granted them this money. They're just asking you to redirect it. I can't give you an answer that you want. What I can say is this is a choice for the council to make. And I am just giving you the information that the grant was given to the YMCA. They had a problem and they can't use the grant for what was expected. They still have those funds. They would like to keep those funds and redirect it to children.
But why didn't the city, couldn't you have written it so that Central Youth Sports got their full grant amount that they awarded instead of just going into this?
Not as I understand it. As I understand it, the grant awards were given out and the council has the authority to do something with these funds. The YMCA came in and asked you to redirect them.
So I can make a motion to fulfill Central Youth Sports grant request, and then all additional funds can go to the YMCA.
I'm gonna, 1 second. Chief Mason was involved in that grant more than I was. I'm coming in the back side. My understanding of the grant parameters is that we extended all of the funds to agencies based on the standards. And the insurance, right? Other than insurance, sorry. Okay. So my answer to that is yes, you could, and the council could make a decision based upon whatever that motion is.
Well, then I would like to make a motion that we fulfill Central Youth Sports grant that they asked for before the due date, and then give the rest of the money to the Y to use for fulfilling as much as they can of this.
I'm not clear.
I'd like to know how much that CYS shortage was.
And why we didn't give it to CYS in the first place.
There wasn't enough money.
Okay.
We
All right, thank
utilized
you.
all the money.
Where did we give the grants? Can you tell? I think there were only 3, right? 4?
Jason has it on this Excel spreadsheet.
Pull it up.
I know.
So there was a grant committee that made the decision of who got how much.
Right.
And the grants that got that. That was done by more than 3 grants were given.
I think it was 5. It was 5. It was just 2 that had time, 2 hadn't gotten their insurance stuff taken care of.
And so,
But
from my memory, and while the chief is pulling it up, from my memory, there was Ash Street.
Idea Hub,
2 different programs. YMCA had a grant, CYS had a grant, and then there was the food hub.
The gate.
Indie Idea Hub.
5, there's certainly
Yeah.
And it wasn't split equally between these for the grants. It
No,
was
'cause
just,
they had specific
They
requirements that they
requested a
wanted to
certain
fund.
amount, and then they were given whatever the amount was.
Just to clarify, YMCA is not coming in late. They can't use the money because we closed the pool. So this is money that we allocated for them. They can't use it. They want to be able to use it.
They want to put it to use for kids.
Yeah.
Right.
You are correct.
Yeah.
I still would like to know what the shortfall for CYS was. So we're talking, I know how much money we're talking about. And well, the chief is looking for that. I have another question, which is this proposal from YMCA talks about equipment and storage solutions to support program growth. Where is storage going to happen? Does that involve building something? And will it be in Polk County or will it be in Marion County? Because that would influence my decision.
If I may, Mayor, Andrea may be able to answer that, if you would allow that.
Please. No, just come right up.
So the current equipment that we have down at the park, we can no longer serve any more youth. So this is vital to program growth in the community. The storage solutions would be a shipping container that we would purchase that would stay in town.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Did that answer your question?
I think so.
Thank you. Chief, how you doing?
One doing fairly well with the. And I have a spreadsheet in front of me. And the confusion I have in my own mind is how much CYS asked for their first 2 grants, because what I have on the spreadsheet is what we grant. So I'm trying to find an actual grant request because I don't have that over. What we actually.
Karen, do you have copies of those? The grant requests?
Yeah, they'd have to dig for it.
Right.
It's not something that's conveniently. Okay.
One more comment. I think this request has some validity as far as assisting CYS if it would benefit all the kids locally. And I'd rather put money towards activities than I would towards storage. I'd also like to mention for the knowledge of CYS and anybody else who's listening that runs a 501c3 in Independence and Monmouth, that there is money available currently through the Chamber of Commerce. They had a $200,000 community grant that was the portion that was requested for local business, went out, was funded. There was an excess, and they are now taking requests from 501c3s, and I believe CYS falls under that category.
So I'm trying to, please.
I was gonna say, if I may, Mayor, if this was a Monmouth Independence grant, I've already spoken with Monmouth in preparation for this, and they were comfortable with, the city manager was comfortable with this redirection. If this council chooses to redirect a different way, I'm going to have to go back to Monmouth and make sure they're comfortable with that, because this is shared funds, just to make that very, very clear. So if you choose to not go this direction, you choose to go another direction, we do have, Mayor, if I may, we have a couple of options. You can go this direction. You can ask me to hold this, talk to Monmouth and go, see if they would be comfortable with a second direction, or you can direct me to go another direction, and then I'll talk to Monmouth. If they disagree, I will be back to you.
What I'd like,
Mayor?
please do.
I would suggest maybe we do at least look further into this, talk to Monmouth. Find out exactly what the dollar figures are, what type of equipment is being purchased, and maybe reevaluate both the requests. Because I think this might have merit to keep it look more local.
Excuse me, I'm more local.
Let's CYS as opposed to.
I think this was, is my
Well,
correct?
this is the Monmouth Independence
YMCA.
branch of the YMCA.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's local.
Not-
Okay, yeah.
But
that's-
I think of CYS as our little group that,
Well, these are the same.
yeah,
kids that are-
okay. My apologies.
So, I'm hearing several different things here. What I would personally like to see is I think we need to give, the money was already allocated. I think we need to give it to them. Pool closed because not from something that they did. And the money was already allocated. And if the pool hadn't closed, this would be a moot point.
Mayor, I'm gonna make a motion to redirect the money according to how the Y chooses to spend it. It's their money. Let them spend it.
What about
Second,
my motion?
Okay.
I already had a
Wait a
motion.
minute. Was there a motion?
Yeah, she did that. She
Okay,
did make a motion.
sorry.
There
I'll
was,
second that, her motion.
and so got a motion, sorry, second, and do you want to have discussion?
well, we have no numbers.
That's right.
Yeah, I think I would suggest we try to.
Okay,
bring
here's
this
what we're
forward to
gonna
the
do.
next-
Unless there's strong objection, we're gonna bring it back to the next
Yes.
council meeting with some numbers.
Thank you.
All right, that's good. So we still have things to do tonight. Okay, so,
Do we need to do anything to close out the motion and the second that are on the floor?
I think it's implied that we're gonna just bring this all back up at the next meeting without objection from people. Thank you. Is there any general announcements? Because we still have a work session to do with the planning commission has been sitting with us. Now, remembering that the work session is a listening session, we're getting information for the first time, just like everybody else is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I'm gonna sit there and listen. And it's a staff presentation on the process that we're gonna go through. Is that correct?
That is correct, sorry.
Okay, so, does anybody have any burning council announcements they need to make at this point? If not, what we're gonna do is we're gonna adjourn this meeting. What I'm gonna do here, hold on, is, we're gonna take about a 10-minute. We're gonna take a 15-minute break, and I'm gonna let you visit with the city manager right now so that we can get things scheduled so people can get heard the way they want to. We're not gonna be doing hearing tonight. We're just listening tonight. We're only listening, but can you meet with them?
Yes.
Right? So we're gonna convene at 20 minutes to 9 downstairs. We're in adjournment.